The assignment is simple. Rank the 10 most powerful vehicles in Forza Horizon 4. Now, the most important point of clarification before we jump into the list, and this really is crucial, is that some of these are actually doubling up. Because when you say top 10 most powerful vehicles, what we should actually say is the top 10 most powerful engines, because certain cars use the same engine in different platforms throughout the game. Especially when you have a game like Forza where you can do a lot of engine swaps, and you will see some of those occasions on this list. So when that does happen, vehicles will be lumped together. Secondly, even though this vehicle is accurate of course at the time of release, at least according to my knowledge of what I could see in the game, if you do believe that I've made a mistake, or if you found an engine or a car which you believe should have been on the list based on the raw numbers, then of course tell me about that down below. And we'll have to see if they add some surprise SSC Twitara to the game or something, in which case it would be added to the list, but at this point in the game cycle, that seems unlikely with Horizon 5 just around the corner. So without any further ado, let's get into our list first of all with number 10. Now number 10 highlights just how extreme this list is, because the lowest one on the list is a Koenigsegg. That's how crazy this list is. The Koenigsegg Jesko with 1600 horsepower on the dot. Then though, moving us into number 9, beating out the Jesko by just 1 horsepower, is of course the SUPRA, the iconic 2JZ engine. And of course this is not just the SUPRA, because yes, it's a SUPRA engine, but you can fit it in a couple of different vehicles in the game, including the older 1992 pop-up headlamp SUPRA, and even a version of the Celica as well. Next up in number 8, we have a truck of all things, the Mercedes racing truck with 1609 horsepower. So once again, we're moving up in fairly small increments, and don't worry, later on this list, we're going to get into some pretty crazy jumps between vehicles, but for now, they're fairly close, clawing at each other. This one, though, certainly isn't going to win any performance-based matches in this roundup. Wouldn't stand a chance against the SUPRA or the Koenigsegg, but it's cool that it has a lot of power and a massive amount of torque as well. Next up in 7th place is an interesting contender that is easy to overlook. It is one of the sleepers of this list, especially because of its purpose. It's a drift car, of all things, the Formula Drift Viper, which eclipses the power level of any of the other Vipers in the game at 1737 horsepower. Unfortunately, it's not quite as quick as the power might suggest. It is very quick, around 267, 268-ish miles an hour, and I did do a tune for it. And incidentally, throughout this video, you'll probably see some of those actually popping up in the top right hand of the video, so if you want to grab those tunes and get this kind of performance, you can click over and watch those as well. This Viper, though, is, as I said, a kind of sleeper contender when it comes to sheer performance. Way more powerful than the SUPRA, but not way faster. Next up, we're keeping it oddball because the 6th most powerful car in the game, and interestingly enough, the only Bugatti on this list, which is also crazy if you think about it, the Lego Chiron. Yeah, really. The Lego Chiron is in fact more powerful than any other Bugatti in the game, which is kind of weird. It has 1742 horsepower, and yes, it is very quick, but it's still unabashedly weird to see something like this so high in terms of having 600 plus cars in the game, and a Lego is in the top 6. Moving up into 5th place though, we have a joint contender. 2 cars which I could find that use the same engine, a kind of obscure engine in this game in fact. I'm surprised that they don't allow more vehicles to have it. A 7.4 litre V8 racing engine, but one which can be fitted in both the Funko Motorsports F9 buggy and, interestingly, for some weird reason, the AMC Rebel, a 1750 horsepower engine, which literally gives this buggy the same power output as the SSC Twitara that I mentioned at the start of the video. Unfortunately, the buggy isn't as quick as you might think with that kind of power. The Rebel, on the other hand, is a very, very quick muscle car. Moving up now into 4th place, so some serious territory, almost a podium contender, is another car which, much like the Drift Viper, is very easy to forget about in the rods and customs category, the Ford 1932 Custom quote-unquote double-down roadster. 1,000 805 horsepower. Now this is a seriously rapid little car. It's not necessarily a hypercar in terms of its straight line performance, but it can certainly worry a lot of the supercars in the game, and it is one of those which is easy to overlook, but as this list shows, it's a serious contender when it comes to pure spec. Moving up into third place, to the great happiness of me being a massive fan of high-performance electric vehicles, of course it's the Rimac. The third most powerful car in the game is the 1,887 horsepower Rimac Concept 2, which more recently of course has been renamed. Unfortunately, the top-end performance is not that great, which is unsurprising for an electric car for a number of reasons, which I'm not going to get into in this video because that's not the point of it, but for acceleration alone, it's pretty rapid, and it's a very nice car to have in the game, if a little bit limited when it comes to tuning. Moving up into second place though, much like that crazy 1932 Ford and the even crazier Lego Chiron, we go once again to the world of basically fiction with a Hot Wheels car, the Twin Mill. Massive engines and easily the dumbest cockpit view in the entire game because you literally can't see where you're going. But when it comes to sheer performance, acceleration alone, and the massive amount of torque and horsepower, it's a beast. Well, the second most powerful car in the game says it all. The Twin Mill has 1,918 horsepower, and yet so far none of the cars on this list have broken the magic 2,000. So what's number one? What is the most powerful, most beastly hypercar in all of this game? Well, it's a Volvo. Yeah, you heard that right. It actually is a Volvo. The Volvo Iron Knight racing truck, because it has 2,400 brake horsepower, and of course, you can put this engine in the Mercedes truck as well, but the reason why I didn't bunch them in together is because that Mercedes truck's own original engine is already one of the top 10 most powerful anyway. If you put this engine into it, it also, of course, makes it equal to the Volvo in practice. It is a beast of an engine and a somewhat underwhelming number one when it comes to a list like this, but of course when it comes to performance these trucks cannot match many of the other cars in the game, but for sheer numbers they do take a lot to beat. So overall that is the top 10 most powerful engines in particular and most of the vehicles that they're typically fitted in Forza Horizon 4. Of course, add any corrections or additional vehicles which you think I might have missed, and ironically, for such a massively popular or unpopular engine, depending on what car you put it in on YouTube, the Aventador's V12 isn't even on here. Shows how powerful these monsters are. Overall though, if you do want to learn multiple tune setups to put massive, powerful engines into normal cars in this game and get crazy performance out of them, I have of course done hundreds of tunes on my storefront and here on the channel, many of which now have the share code included so that you can find them easily and quickly. So of course stick around on the channel for that and many more tunes still to come, and for Horizon 5 content in the future. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.